the angel was sent. Tobit didn't lose his faith. He only lost the light. Sarah didn't lose her purity. She only lost hope. 2 people, 2 prayers, sent up into a world that had forgotten justice. On earth, no one heard them, but heaven did. When Tobit's eyes went blind, when Sarah's heart broke apart, God sent Raphael, not with a sword, not with thunder, but with a journey to heal what no one else could see. Welcome to Prayer Station, a righteous man in the darkness. He lived in a city that was no longer called by the name of the Lord. There, the people of the covenant had forgotten the covenant. They built altars to Baal. The sacred cross was replaced by a golden calf, and the words of the prophets were dismissed like wind lost across a wasteland. That city was called Nineveh, and in the thick darkness of a nation in exile, there was still one man who never bowed to an idol. His name was Tobit. I am of the tribe of Naphtali. I went up to Jerusalem while others turned to Baal. I remembered the covenant, even while living in a cursed land. No one saw him, but heaven recorded every step he took toward the abandoned temple. When others forsook the tithe, he still brought the first fruits to the altar. When others offered their children to idols, he offered his heart to the Lord. And then exile came. Tobit was taken from his homeland, driven into the land of his enemies, surrounded by foreign feasts, foreign customs, and the stench of death. But his heart was never moved. He would not eat meat sacrificed to idols. He would not bow before the king of Assyria. He would not give up the name, a child of the living God. There was one thing he did in secret. No one witnessed, no one thanked him. He buried the dead. The bodies of the Israelites were cast outside the city, pecked by ravens and dragged by dogs. But each night when the sun disappeared, he would go. With a shovel in hand, he dug the earth, laid the bodies of his people in graves, covered them, prayed. No funeral, no relatives, no light. Only one righteous man and steadfast faithfulness. Then trouble came. Someone reported to the king that Tobit was burying the dead, a forbidden act under Assyrian law. He had to flee. His possessions were seized. His friends abandoned him. All that remained was a wife and a child. And as if it weren't enough, he went blind. Not because of sin, not because of old age, just because a sparrow flew by, dropped waste into his eyes, and day by day his vision faded, clouded, then vanished. A man who once saw the light of the temple now saw only darkness. A man who once buried the bodies of his people, now buried in the gloom of his soul. Yet he did not complain. In the darkness he still prayed. Though he could not see, he still believed God was seeing him. But the deepest pain did not come from the enemy. It came from the wife who had once suffered alongside him. One day, Anna received a goat as a reward for her work. It bleated in the yard. Tobit, the righteous man, asked, "Where did this animal come from?" She replied, "It was given to me." He doubted, "Could it be stolen? Return it. Let this family not eat what is unjust." And then she couldn't take it anymore. She cried out, "All the righteous deeds you've done, where are they now? Has God seen them? If he saw them, then why are you like this? If you're righteous, then why are you blind? If you're faithful, then why are you poor? You're a righteous man, and all that's left are sightless eyes and an empty stomach." The greatest darkness did not come from his eyes. It came from that question. It came from the sound of hope shattering, from the one he loved most. Tobit didn't answer. He just turned his face away, sat alone, and wept. But in the deepest place of pain, he did what few still dare to do. He prayed. He did not demand justice, did not demand his sight back. He simply asked to die. Lord, if I have finished my part, if this is all my life is left, then take my soul and bring me home. No one heard him, but heaven did. Heaven did not respond with thunder or shining angels. But somewhere, in a distant city, a girl was praying the same thing. And an angel was being sent down, carrying light, healing, and a marriage not chosen by man but appointed from eternity, a cry behind closed doors. In a small room, the last light of day slipped through the window, stretching across the face of Tobit, an old blind man who was once a righteous one. He had nothing left in his hands, no land, no honor, no light, only breath and a sorrow too deep to see the bottom. Lord, please take my soul. His voice wasn't loud, but it was heavy, as if the weight of the world collapsed into each word spoken. Tobit, the man who once fed the hungry, who buried the bodies thrown outside the city wall, now had no strength left to rise. Even those he once helped, neighbors, kin, mocked him for his blindness. From a giver he became one dependent. From one who once saw the way, now he saw only night. I have kept your law, but now all I have left is pain. It was not a complaint. It was the voice of a soul longing to be released, a righteous man who no longer saw a reason to keep living. At the same time, in another city, in another room, a young woman was also weeping. Her name was Sarah. She had once believed in marriage, once hoped, but one by one, 7 husbands all died on the wedding night. Not by illness, not by accident, but by an evil spirit that haunted her life. Asmodeus, an ancient jealous spirit dwelling in the void between love and possession. It killed every man who came near Sarah, as if to say, no one shall touch her. Each morning after the wedding night was a funeral. Each dream became a new nightmare. And then, the whispers began to spread. She is cursed. She murders her husbands. She is unworthy of love. Even the servants could no longer hold back their disdain. They mocked and scorned. She's killed 7 already and still wants to marry? Then in that closed room, Sarah clutched at her collar. In her mind, a thought crept in, like darkness slipping through a crack in the door. End it. 1 rope, 1 branch, and the pain will cease. But in that very moment, a different whisper rose from the deepest part of her soul. You are a daughter of the Holy One. She lifted her face to heaven. Tears burst forth like a dry river breaking free. Lord, if I have no worth, take me. But if you still remember me, please look upon me. I have kept myself pure, not for lust, not for glory, only because I believe one day you will remember my name. In 2 cities, 2 people, an old Tobit and a young Sarah, one blind in the darkness, one hunted by darkness, strangers, no blood between them, but sharing the same pain and the same prayer. No one heard them weep, no one saw them bow in solitude, but heaven listened. And Raphael was sent down. There was no thunder, there was no earthquake, only an angel walking light as mist, yet carrying the command of the Most High. None of them knew that prayer had shaken the eternal throne. Neither Tobit nor Sarah saw the angel, but Raphael had left the radiant throne. For when the righteous sigh, the heavens do not remain silent. The door of destiny had just opened, but they did not know, because sometimes God's answer doesn't come as a miracle, but as a journey. And that journey is about to begin, the journey to regain the light. When blessings are your luggage and filial piety your guiding lamp, In the days when the father's eyes were still blind and the mother's heart still trembled with longing for her son, deep within Tobit's soul, a divine command was being written. He called Tobias, his only remaining son and also the last light of his life, to entrust not only a final wish but a sacred inheritance, a life of righteousness, reverence for the Lord, and how to keep the commandments in an exiled world. My son, if I should die, bury me and your mother in the same tomb. But first, live a life worth living. Fear the Lord and do not turn your face from the poor. A small act of kindness with sincerity will open the gates of heaven, but a heart full of pride, even with heaps of gold, cannot save anyone. His words were not mere instructions. They were the legacy of a soul crushed by hardship, but never broken. Tobit did not hand Tobias weapons, titles, or fortune. He handed his son faith. But Tobit also remembered something. A debt not yet collected, 10 talents of silver and media, an amount he had entrusted long while serving as a courtier to King Enemisar. Now Tobias, still young, unfamiliar with roads or people, was called to go and retrieve it, and so began a journey, not just to reclaim silver but to reclaim the light, for his father, for their lineage, and Tobias himself. Tobias did not go alone. His traveling companion was already waiting. Raphael, the angel of the elite, now hidden under the name Azarias, posing as a chance traveler. Tobit, wise through hardship, was not quick to trust. He asked about his background, his lineage, and his faithfulness. And Raphael, the angel of presence, answered with such honesty that no one could suspect the truth. Tobit listened and agreed. He didn't know, but heaven had already orchestrated it. Along the journey by the Tigris River, something strange happened. Tobias bent down to wash himself, and a large fish leapt out to swallow him. It seemed like a disaster, but it wasn't. The angel told him to catch it, cut it open, and keep the heart, liver, and gall. What you've just caught will become an instrument to drive out demons and to heal. Keep it as you would your faith, for the day will come when this fish saves the blind and casts out the evil spirit. Tobias obeyed, though he didn't fully understand. But deep within his soul, a seed of obedience was sprouting. The fish was not just a fish. It was a symbol of reversal. What seemed to devour us becomes the remedy of redemption. The road was not over, but light had begun to glimmer, not from the sun, but from a father's teaching, an angel's presence, and the quiet faith growing in Tobias's heart, the wedding chamber and the demon who guards it. Not every door that opens to marriage leads to happiness. There are chambers called wedding rooms, but they are places where 7 men have died. Sarah, the only daughter of Raguel, had been married 7 times, 7 first nights, 7 husbands who never touched her, because Asmodeus, the evil spirit of lust and destruction, loved her himself, and he guarded her like a living prison. No one made it past the wedding night, and yet today Tobias, a young innocent man, the son of a blind father, stood before that very door. He knew all the rumors. He heard his future father-in-law, Raguel, tell the story through tears. Even he, the one who gave birth to her, had already prepared the grave. But Tobias did not turn away. He did not run. He did not ask God why. He stepped in, because something within him was stronger than fear. Not because he was confident, but because he had been taught how to pray, because he carried his father's words, and an angel walked with him. The fateful night. When the door closed, Tobias did not touch the girl. He took from his pouch the heart and liver of the fish, placed them upon the prepared incense ashes. And a strange burning smell began to rise, a smell not only to anger the demon, a smell to expose him. In the spiritual realm, Asmodeus screamed, unable to endure the scent of obedience, unable to stand where two pure souls prayed. He fled to Egypt, but he did not escape. Raphael, who had been waiting, pursued him and bound him with chains of light, not with a sword, but with authority from the Most High. Meanwhile, Tobias and Sarah knelt down, not in fear, but in worship. Lord, I do not take this woman out of lust, but according to your will. Grant mercy and allow us to grow old together in righteousness. In that silence, God heard. An angel stood guard at the doorway. No thunder, no dazzling light, only two trembling souls who placed their trust in the hands of the Holy One. The next morning, Raguel, the old father with sunken, weary eyes, quietly woke up. He went to the garden. The grave had already been dug. He sent a servant to check. No one had died. No one had vanished. Only two young people are still sleeping in peace. Raguel collapsed and wept, not because he lost his daughter, but because he found hope again. He had the grave filled in, and the wedding celebration began. 7 husbands before had failed. One man who prayed had prevailed. Asmodeus guarded Sarah with fear, but Tobias entered with faith, opening the father's eyes. Love doesn't end in the bridal chamber. It must return. Return to the blind father, to the mother who hasn't stopped crying. Return to the promise and to a miracle already prepared. Tobias had taken a wife ordained by God. Sarah was no longer the girl guarded by a demon. She had become a prayed-for companion. But Tobias did not forget. His father was still blind. His mother was still weeping. Before leaving Raguel, Tobias called out to Raphael, "Brother Azarias, please go ahead. To Media meet Gabael. Bring back the silver my father entrusted. Because I know my father is counting the days, and if I don't return, his heart will break." Raphael nodded. An angel who knows the way, knows the timing, and knows a father's longing. That very night he departed, met Gabael, presented the documents, and retrieved the silver. And the next day, they all set out on the journey home. Return, not in glory, but in the hope of resurrection. In Nineveh, Anna sat at the front of the house. Every day, no food, no full sleep. She looked in the direction Tobias had gone, like a blind woman searching for light. And then, a figure appeared, not one, but 3. Tobias, Raphael, and Sarah, and the dog, silently loyal, still walked beside them. Anna jumped up. She didn't wait for confirmation. She didn't need an explanation. She just needed to see. "There's Tobias, my son has returned." She ran as if she had never suffered, as if all the dark days dissolved in a single moment. She embraced him, and her heart found life again. Tobit, the blind father, heard his wife's voice. He stood up. No cane needed, only faith. Each step felt out, each stride aimed at love's call. Tobias rushed in. He caught the father, who hadn't seen his face since his youth. And then, he took out what he had carried throughout the journey. Fish gall. Not medicine, but the symbol of a promise. He said, "Father, believe me. This is what the angel instructed. We prayed, and today, light will return." Tobias gently placed the fish gall on his father's eyes. No thunder, no dazzling light, just a slight burn-in. Then the white film built up over 8 years began to melt away. Tobit gasped. He opened his eyes. Light came in, blurry, then clearer. And he saw the face of his son for the first time. After years of blindness, he saw hope standing in front of him. He embraced Tobias and wept. Blessed be God forever. Blessed be his name, he who struck me, then healed me again. No one in the neighborhood believed it. The blind father could now see. The lost son had returned, and the wife Era, he as the witness of a new life. Tobit led Sarah into the house. He said, "Welcome, my daughter, blessed be God for bringing you here. You are not only Tobias's wife, but the light I once prayed for." A second wedding began. No more demons, no more hidden corpses, only laughter, blessings, and songs of praise to God. But the story isn't over yet, because the young man still didn't know. Raphael, the companion, the protector, the counselor, he was a mere man, the angel revealed, and a prophecy. Not everyone who walks with us is human. Not everyone who speaks little knows little. Some are sent because of our prayers. Tobit regained his sight. Tobias married the wife chosen by God. Silver was in their hands, every promise fulfilled. But one thing had yet to be revealed. Who was Raphael? One day Tobit called his son, "My son, reward the man who journeyed with you, kept you from harm, brought back the silver, brought you home, brought your wife, and healed your father's eyes." Tobias replied, "Father, what could be fairer than giving him half of all I own?" Tobit nodded. Raphael was summoned, but he did not ask for payment. He did not accept silver. Instead, he stood between father and son and opened his mouth. His first words sounded like thunder from heaven. "Bless the Lord, praise him, exalt his name before all who live, for holy things are not to be hidden but declared with reverence." Tobit and Tobias froze. Raphael continued, "You thought I was a man, but I am Raphael, one of the 7 angels who stand in the presence of the Most High." Heaven and earth held their breath. Both men fell face down, trembling in the presence they had walked unaware. Raphael did not leave immediately. An angel is not only sent to act, but also to speak, he said. "When you prayed, and when your daughter-in-law Sarah wept, I brought those cries before the Holy One. When you left your meal to rise and bury the dead outside, the Lord received your heart." Raphael looked straight at Tobias. "Remember this. Do not fear to do what is right. Do not withhold charity. Charity delivers from death, and it wipes away all sin." He paused as though the trumpet was about to retreat. "I did not eat or drink anything before you because I do not belong to this world. What you saw, it was a vision. Now bless God, for it is he who did this, not I." And at that very moment, Raphael disappeared. No smoke, no wings in flight, only a silence filled with holy awe. Tobit and Tobias fell to the ground, not in fear of the angel, but in the realization that God had drawn near. And they had not recognized him. They praised the Lord, not for the miracle, but for the answered prayer. Not because sight was restored, but because their hearts had awakened. They had traveled a long road. From the sorrow of Nineveh to the love found in Ecbatana, and now closer than ever to heaven. The angel was gone, but his words remained. "Do not withhold righteousness, do not keep back good deeds, for they will save you more than silver, more than sight, more than miracles, when the angel removes the mask." There are faces we think are mere companions, but then at a destined moment they turn, and the heavens unveil. That day when everything had been fulfilled, when the silver was returned, when the Father's eyes were seen again, when the wounds in Sarah's soul had closed, when the wedding was held in joy and tears were no longer burdens but blessings. Tobit said, "My son, give due reward to your companion." and do not give little." Tobias nodded, heart full of gratitude. He said to his father, "I offer him half of all I brought back. Because he walked with me, healed you, led me safely home, and brought me to the wife I love." But then that companion stood upright and spoke, no longer with a human voice, but with the echo of another realm. "Bless the Lord, praise his name, worthily proclaim his works. Do not keep the good things hidden, for the glory does not belong to us, but to him who dwells in glory." Then stillness covered the room. It was no longer Tobias looking at a companion, but a human standing before a light that had no name. "I am Raphael, one of the 7 angels who stand in constant attendance before the holy presence." No one could breathe. Tobit's eyes widened. Sarah gripped Tobias's hand tightly. The days that once seemed ordinary turned out to be a journey with a messenger from on high. "I neither ate nor drank with you, Skunwudum. What you saw was only a vision. For I am a spirit." This revelation was not to make humans praise the angel, but to affirm one thing: angels are never the center. They are signs, they are guides, they are shadows that lead toward the light source. And Raphael continued to speak, like a sacred brother, like a final flash before vanishing. "Do what is good, live righteously. Remember, when you give alms, when you bury the dead, when you pray in secret, no deed is forgotten. Before your words were spoken, I had brought them before the Holy One. And now, I was sent not because I am exalted, but because of God's mercy toward you." Then he departed, no wings soaring, no blinding glory, only silence and hearts melting in reverence. Tobit and Tobias fell face down and worshipped. But the angel had vanished. He left no name, took no reward, held no glory for himself, because true angels do not need to be glorified. They live to turn our gaze toward the Eternal One. When the story is more than history, it becomes a revelation. According to Dr. Eliana Koresh, professor of post-exilic theology at the University of Jerusalem, having spent over 20 years studying apocryphal texts and the role of angels in redemptive history, she shares, "The story of Raphael in the Book of Tobit is not merely a journey. It is a divine symphony between human suffering and heaven's mercy." She explains, "In a world where miracles are often confined to imagination, the Book of Tobit shows us that God does not need to be loud to act. Raphael didn't arrive with fire from the sky. There was no thunder, no trembling. He came in human form to walk alongside. No declarations of power, no flashing signs, just quiet guidance, healing, and in the end, retreating like a morning mist. And it's precisely that ordinariness that holds the greatest revelation. True glory does not always appear in radiant light. Sometimes glory wears the form of a traveling companion. An answer comes not through a voice, but through presence." She concludes, "Tobit and Sarah were not rescued because they demanded it loudly, because they remained faithful when no one was watching. And Raphael, in his silence, became the embodiment of a greater truth. God never abandons the righteous. He simply answers by making the journey itself sacred. Today's calling today when you pray through tears, when your words are misunderstood, when you stand before Sarah's deadly wedding room or Tobit's blind nightfall. Raphael is still being sent. God is still listening. Prayers whispered in silence are still brought before the throne of glory. You may think you're just living ordinary days, but what if the stranger you barely notice is a messenger sent to uphold your soul? What if the moment you collapse in exhaustion, It is the very moment your prayer reaches heaven, and an angel is being dispatched, not because you're strong, but because you're faithful in weakness. Tobit once begged to die. Sarah once considered ending her life, but on the very day they both wept, the angel was sent. God does not forget your whispered prayers in the night. He does not abandon you when others mock your faith. He does not ignore the righteous acts you do in secret, unseen by anyone else. Live righteously, believe in the light, because some miracles only happen when you keep praying in the dark. If these words have touched your heart, leave a comment. Amen. God is still sending angels. And follow the Prayer Station channel so you won't miss the next chapters. Each subscription you give is more than a number. It's a declaration. I still believe even in the dark. Subscribe, comment, and share this with someone waiting for a miracle, because maybe you are the messenger sent for them.